Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reader's Intrigue, where authors are going to read the first chapter of their book so that we can be intrigued and maybe find a new book to read. Get comfy, get cozy. Let's listen.
My name is Barbara Ann Briggs. I'm a poet, a freelance journalist, a certified teacher of transcendental meditation, and the author of 2 books. I'm also the host of a podcast called Essence of Life, and I have a YouTube channel. Pilgrimage on the Path of Love is the story of a woman who travels alone to India in search of fulfillment. After many challenges and soul-stirring experiences, she emerges triumphant with a much deeper understanding of her purpose in life and the meaning of true love. Chapter 1. The plane landed in Dubai on its way to New Delhi. I wheeled my luggage carrier up the long passageway, enjoying the exercise after the 8-hour flight from London. I was hungry. Since the food served on airplanes is not my favorite, I had had nothing to eat but raisins and almonds on the way. My stomach grumbled, but I ignored it. In 5 more hours, I would be in India. As I moved slowly toward the waiting room, I was conscious of heads turning as I passed. I glanced hurriedly at my yellow and pink summer dress to see if the thin cotton fabric revealed too much. I tossed the matching shawl over my shoulder and let it fall gracefully down the middle of my back. Then, finding an inconspicuous corner by the door, I took the comb from my handbag and proceeded to comb back my thick black, curly hair. When I took out my mirror, I was not entirely displeased, but I rummaged through the red cosmetic bag until I found the lip pencil. I turned to face the door and, as discreetly as possible, applied a fresh layer of coral to the natural brown hue of my mouth. Perched on top of the luggage carrier was a gold-colored wide-brimmed hat with a peach silk scarf. As I replaced the cosmetics, it tottered and fell onto the floor with a soft swishing sound. In a circular motion, I swooped down and retrieved it, putting it on and tying the silk scarf under my chin. Then I glanced around. It was a modern airport with clean, sleek, and polished floors. I wanted to sit down as my feet ached. However, Indian men who were fast asleep occupied all the seats in the waiting area. They sat slouching with curved backs or bent forward with their head hanging down on their chest. The Indian women were awake, tending to the babies they carried in their arms or rocked gently backwards and forwards in their strollers. The women were all well adorned with colorful gold-trimmed saris trailing regally on the floor and sparkling 22-carat gold earrings dangling from their small, delicately sculptured heads. I smiled to myself as I wistfully inhaled the scene spread out before me. So this, India, is to be my home. For the next, how long? I do not know. Will he meet me at the airport? What will he be like? I sighed inwardly. The boarding area was already full. I had to leave the airport luggage carrier outside before entering. It was a long queue. The unshaven man standing in front of me with matted hair down to his waist and torn brown trousers smelled as if he had not taken a bath in a month. I held my breath and turned in the opposite direction, with my back to the door leading to the plane. My arm ached from carrying the blue vinyl bag. Although not unusually big, it was full of hardcover notebooks. "Tickets, passports, have them ready," an Air India attendant shouted at the amorphous mass of people moving like a horde of hummingbees toward the entrance to the plane. I was pushed forward. Free seating, just be seated, madam. There's an empty seat just here." The attendant pointed to a seat on my right, next to a man who was obviously Indian. He was wearing tight blue jeans and a black t-shirt that accentuated his well-developed chest and muscular biceps. The t-shirt had Florida written on it in blaring orange and yellow letters that simulated dancing flames. He was tall, agile, and his strong, regular features were framed by a mass of smooth black hair. He smiled, his eyes perusing my figure as I passed him to sit in the window seat. Then he tugged at his jeans on the upper part of his legs, as if to lessen their discomfort. I looked away, embarrassed. "What is your country?" he asked. "America. I was born in New York," I answered. "How many more hours to Delhi?" "3," he answered. "How long you will stay in India?" he asked, looking directly into my eyes. His sleek, strong body exuded the feline grace of a leopard stalking his prey, but he had a sweet, gentle quality which made his manner less obtrusive. "I have a 1-year visa." I stared straight ahead, as if peering into a vast open space which contained the secret of my future. I felt a slight shiver go down my spine. "Have you been to India before?" "Oh, yes, twice. I was in Shimla in the foothills of the Himalayas, and I lived in Varanasi for almost 6 months. I was studying music." My mind drifted back to Varanasi. "In Varanasi, I lived near the Ganges. I used to go to bathe in the river at dawn. Watching the sunrise on the Ganges was the best part of the trip." "Oh, you liked it? It is a holy river," he paused. "What's your name?" he asked, turning in his seat to face me. "Shantila." "Mine is Yogesh," he said. "Sounds like yogi," I replied, smiling. "You should be a yogi with a name like that." My mother chose the name. I think my mother hoped I would be religious. I mean, more than I am. "You're not?" I asked. "Oh, I used to be, but I don't have time now. I work for Air India. I'm a manager. I just returned from a ski trip in Aspen, Colorado. Nice place. Do you ski?" "No," I answered, "but once I tried, cross-country." "Fasten seatbelts," the loudspeaker blared out. As the plane lifted into the sky, I leaned back in the seat and closed my eyes. I remembered those early morning walks in Varanasi, down the dirt road leading to the shore. As the plane soared ever higher into the sky, the picture of the Ganges unraveled on the canvas of my memory. India, India. I saw again the wide expanse of the river spreading out before me. The pale blue waters of the river had stirred my soul with such peace. Those waters had whispered to me of a world without end or beginning, where love wove the garment of life, a love eternal which reigned supreme over all. The river seemed to open her eyelids at dawn, her veil fluttering in the morning air. Her veil of pale blue silk, made of undulating waves and woven by the hands of God, rippled in the shimmering light of dawn. Her voice, like a caress, sang in silence of a world born before time. Her voice seemed to call to me as I boarded the simple wooden boat. I remember even now how the oars of the boat kissed the surface of the water and then sank momentarily into the translucent folds of soft blue silk. The divine Ganga did not mind the touch of the wood upon her body. Like a woman who willingly bears all burdens, the waters yielded to the slow, rhythmic pressure of the oars as the boatman plied his way forward toward the rising sun. The voices of prayer coming from the ardent devotees who lined the bank of the river rose and fell like the gentle waves murmuring in the unbounded ocean of silence which pervaded everything. I drifted in and out of sleep as these images arose in my mind. I saw again the straight-backed women carrying puja pots of brass bend low before the waters. They pressed their foreheads to the sand before their holy mother Ganga. The pink sky breathed its ambience into the air, and black crows pierced the white haze in the distance with their large black wings. The wild crows cawed loudly as they circled the stone steps of the temples and flew above the waters in a dance to music which only they could hear. The iron temple bells rang out. I heard again their sound inside. The Ganges, the bells, the sky aglow with the light of dawn. They summoned me, calling me forth from my room each morning, and I knew that I had to come to the shores of the river to offer obeisance and to bathe. The plane suddenly dipped down, and I felt as if the seat had fallen out from under me. My stomach bounced up with a jolt as I lurched forward. "We will be in Delhi in 15 minutes, Yogesh said. You are fine? Were you sleeping?" No, not really." "Yes, I'm fine," I said, leaning back in the seat and tightening the seatbelt around my waist. The wheels hit the runway with a loud thump as the plane skidded forward into the space reserved for it. Before the seatbelt signs were switched off, the aisles were filled with Muslim men, tall, heavy-set, cramming to get to the overhead luggage compartments. The men looked aggressive, almost ominous in their demeanor, as they filed out with their bulging bags, one after another. The women wearing black headdresses and skirts, which covered their ankles, followed. I tugged unsuccessfully at the vinyl bag in front of me. Yogesh, touching my arm, reached down and with a quick flick of his wrist, tossed its handles over his shoulder. "Let me have it," he said, moving into the aisle with an agile twist of his body. With a quiet sigh of relief, I followed him down the long, narrow aisle with only my tambura, the Indian musical instrument I played. A wave of exhilaration arose as I thought, "India, I'm here at last." The crowd shoved past me, eager to get to the checkout counter. The exhilaration faded fast. When I arrived, Indira Gandhi Airport was a nondescript arena containing only the most basic amenities. It had a great pallor like an aging woman wearing faded garments. I had to struggle to keep up with Yogesh. He took long rhythmic strides, and as an Air India official, he knew everyone at all the checkout counters, and we walked to the front of every queue. Before long, we stood in front of the large revolving wheel, which groaned under the weight of all the baggage emerging from the circular tunnel. I marveled at the huge round bundles, wrapped in different colors of cloth and tied round and round with rope. These bulging bundles swayed precariously back and forth on the rotating wheel. 4 men were required to roll it off the luggage wheel. It was quite a substitute for a suitcase. Equally unwieldy were some of the huge cardboard boxes and old battered metal trunks. Yogesh already had his suitcase. "I'm going to duty free. I'll be back," he said, and sauntered off. I took my blue suitcase off the wheel and waited anxiously for the green one. The revolving wheel stopped. There was no sign of my green cloth suitcase with the brown leather trim. About half an hour later, Yogesh returned, dangling a large plastic bag containing several boxes of duty-free cigarettes. "One of my suitcases is missing," I said wearily. "Don't worry, just wait, I'll find it," Yogesh said, striding off to a place behind the revolving wheel. After a few minutes, he returned, swinging my green suitcase deftly from his left hand. "Is this it?" he asked. "It has Shantila Martin written on it, so it must be right." "Unusual name, Shantila. I like it," he murmured, placing the case on the luggage carrier. "Is someone meeting you?" he asked, lighting a cigarette. "I hope so," I replied, looking around as we headed toward the taxi stand. It was still very dark outside. Several thin old men dressed in dirty, shabby clothes stood huddled together, smoking, their dark, sunken eyes framed by rough, haggard faces, streaked with weather-beaten lines, looked wild. Their hollow cheekbones accentuated the poverty that hung like broken wings from lean and pointed bones. The windless air around the taxi stand was thick with black smoke, which was constantly being belched from the rusted exhaust pipes of the 3-wheel auto rickshaws and ramshackle buses desperately in need of repair. "Bakshish, madam, 1 rupee, madam." I looked down into a tiny face with large, hungry eyes. She was about 5 years old, with pockmarked skin and uncombed hair. Her dress had once been yellow. She held out her cupped palms and looked up at me. Then she very shyly reached out and tugged gently at the bottom of my cotton dress. Yogesh reached into the pocket of his jeans, took out a coin, and gave it to her. She smiled and ran to her mother, who stood looking on some distance away. I stood at the edge of the sidewalk and nervously glanced at my watch. It was 4 a.m. Brahma Muhurta, the first breath of dawn, the hour of the awakening of the gods. A good time to arrive. I just hope someone comes to collect me, I sighed. Any sign of your friend, Yogesh asked, puffing amiably on his cigarette. No, maybe I should phone him. I sent him an email telling him I was coming. I don't have any rupees. I haven't changed any money yet. Give me his number. I'll call. Just wait here and watch your bags. Searching in my shoulder bag, I found my address book. I scribbled the telephone number on a scrap of paper and then watched until Yogesh disappeared down the long passageway leading to the main lounge of the airport. I started to feel uneasy. Taxi, madam. Taxi. Where you want to go? A young Indian man in flashy trousers strode up to me, pointing to his shining ambassador. I shook my head from side to side, indicating that I was not interested. I moved further away from the rickshaw drivers, who stood coughing and spitting into the gutter. Why isn't he here to meet me? I told him what time I would be arriving. I don't like standing here among all these men in the dark. I felt so vulnerable. After what seemed like a very long time, Yogesh appeared. He had no idea you were coming to India. He was fast asleep. I woke him up. He was not pleased at being disturbed in the middle of the night. He said, I'll come to get you in about an hour or so. Yogesh's voice trailed off. There was a glimmer of concern in his expression. 1 hour, I shouted. 1 hour. I have to wait here all alone for an hour. It doesn't feel right to be here all alone. I don't feel safe, I said wearily in a low voice. Oh God, he didn't get the email. Why, oh why didn't I phone him to confirm the date? How stupid of me. I covered my face with my hands as my mind raced forwards. Oh, Shantila, you've done it again. You've never been very worldly, and I know you feel more comfortable in the realm of abstract ideas than in the harsh realities of day-to-day life. But now you'll have to face the consequences. Well, he said he just woke up. He needed a little time, and he had just returned from a trip. Take it easy, Shantila. I'll take you to the waiting room. I told him you would wait there. Yogesh swiftly wheeled the cart with my suitcases piled on it across the street and up a ramp. We entered a large, rather bleak hall. It was empty except for an old man with a woolen cap sitting on a wooden bench near the door. I went and sat on the other side of the bench. You wait here. You're fine, Yogesh asked. Yes, I'll be all right, I said, but I was thinking, if he doesn't come, then what will I do? Yogesh reached into his pocket. Here, take this. He handed me 5 rupees. Here's my telephone number. If you need me, just call. I'll come and help you. Thank you, I murmured. Thank you very much for your help. Yogesh swiveled around on his heels and left the hall. I fumbled in my bag for my mirror. I looked tired, no, exhausted. He invited me to come. This is such a special time in my life. Oh, why did this have to happen? He did not get the email. A raucous sound behind me shook the air like a bolt of lightning. I whipped my neck around. That poor man. I saw his body bend forward like a broken twig. Again, without any warning, the air was bombarded with a similar blast of thunder. The cough seemed to erupt like a volcano. I shuddered and moved away to the end of the bench. I was starving. You're entering India. Starving, Shantila. I heard an inner voice say in a tone of a warning. Not a good omen, is it? I remembered the time in Varanasi when I was without a single rupee. I had arranged to receive bank transfers from England, and then tension flared up between the Hindus and Muslims because of a dispute over a temple in Ayodhya. To avoid a riot in Varanasi, they imposed a curfew over the whole town. All the banks were closed for weeks, and there were days when no one was even allowed to come out of their houses. The waiting room was hot, too hot. My clothes were already sticking to my body. The old man was still coughing. I shivered involuntarily. When will he come? I looked down at my watch. I shifted my position on the bench. My stomach began to grumble. I was too tired to mind. Suddenly, the door swung open. Pilgrimage on the Path of Love can be purchased on Amazon. You can follow me on my website, barbaraannbriggs.com. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and on my YouTube channel and on most podcast websites.
Thank you again to the amazing author that read us a story, and be sure to check out all the other amazing shows on RB Media. Till next time, bye!